The boy simply drank Coke instead of water all the time. Who would have thought it saved his life? Because the town's groundwater had become severely contaminated, everyone who drank the polluted water turned into terrifying zombies. Fortunately, the boy only drank Coke and never water. His sister only drank formula mixed with bottled water. That's how they narrowly avoided infection by the zombie virus. But the thirsty man before them wasn't so lucky, as he gulped down the contaminated water in one go. A splitting headache soon began to pound his skull. Returning home, he discovered in horror, his teeth had turned an eerie green. Just as he grappled with this bewildering change, he suddenly heard his wife's screams from upstairs. The next instant, his body underwent a sudden mutation. Uncontrollably, he lunged at his wife in the shower. Before she could react, she transformed into a green-eyed zombie just like him. Meanwhile, many others who drank the contaminated water also mutated, roaming the streets madly searching for prey to tear apart. Jack watched his neighbors flee from the windowsill and urgently asked his mother what was happening. But to his horror, his mother rose eerily from her seat. It turned out she had drunk vegetable juice made with contaminated water, and the zombie virus had already infected her. In the next instant, she lunged toward Jack. Jack was startled and begged his mother to calm down, but his mother couldn't understand a word he said. Jack had no choice but to open the door and flee for his life. Just then, a car suddenly sped past, accidentally knocking his mutated mother flying. The driver jumped out, apologized, and urged Jack to hide back inside. The entire town was overrun with infected zombies. The driver then frantically drove away. At that very moment, several zombies nearby charged toward them. Terrified, Jack yanked his mother back home. Fortunately, just before the zombies caught up, he managed to drag her inside. To prevent his mother from harming his newborn sister, he had no choice but to lock her in the bathroom. But his sister's cries only made the mother more frenzied. With no other option, Jack covered the stroller with toys. As his sister's cries gradually faded, the zombies outside finally quieted down. Though the immediate danger had passed, Jack now faced a grim challenge: how to survive with his baby sister. Just as he stood frozen in terror, the roar of aircraft suddenly echoed outside. To prevent the zombie virus from spreading, the military had bombed the town's only exit bridge, cutting off power and abandoning the residents to fend for themselves. The next day, Jack pulled out his phone to call for help, only to find the battery dead. Watching his sister wail from hunger, Jack mimicked his mother's actions, using the last bottle of water to mix formula for her. Then, to prevent his mother from starving, he grabbed a bunch of vegetables and headed into the bathroom. He intended to let his mother eat some greens, but his sister followed him from behind. The next moment, the zombie mother attacked his sister. Jack, horrified by the scene, quickly grabbed the vegetables to distract the zombie mother, but then his mother accidentally knocked over the TV cabinet. The next second, the TV cabinet crushed his mother. Jack froze in terror at that instant. He realized he couldn't just sit and wait to die, because there really wasn't much food left in the house. To survive, he quietly pulled out a ladder to observe outside. To his surprise, as long as he remained silent, the zombies outside didn't notice him. Spotting the family cat he'd raised for years, Jack immediately thought of a way to escape. He flung open the door to draw the zombies' attention, while the cat was being chased by the zombies. He scooped up his sister and dashed outside without looking back. He originally planned to hide with his sister in a supermarket, only to find the main doors firmly locked. With no other choice, he turned toward the back entrance, but it was sealed shut as well. Just as he was plunged into deep despair, a pair of strong hands suddenly pulled him inside. It was a police officer who had dragged him in, and there was enough food here for them to survive for a long time. Suddenly, a mutated girl lunged at the glass. She was the officer's daughter. She too had become a zombie after drinking contaminated water. Hearing this, Jack felt immense pain. His own mother had also turned into a zombie. Dan suspected nuclear wastewater might be the cause. To verify his theory, Dan decided to test the water at the town's water treatment plant. To prevent accidents, he secured his daughter with barbed wire and slipped out the back door of the supermarket. He drove to the largest local water treatment plant, but as soon as his daughter arrived, she was drawn to the scent of the contaminated water. Like a madwoman, she charged into the reservoir to drink. Seeing this, Dan ignored the danger and pulled her out. At that very moment, a zombie emerged from the water. To protect Dan, Jack frantically fled, drawing the mutated zombie's attention. Though he quickly reached the plant's perimeter, the horde behind him grew relentlessly. Fortunately, Jack's swift legs carried him ahead. Just before the zombies closed in, he dived into the car. Dan then used his daughter as cover to climb aboard. Realizing this was no place to linger, especially with nightfall approaching, Dan had no choice but to leave the siblings in search of shelter. Fortunately, he soon spotted a luxurious villa. He scaled the wall and reached the second floor. He unlocked the door from the inside. Then Dan locked his daughter in a room. Jack also tucked his sister into a corner. But just as they got up to search for food, the little girl crawled out of the corner, driven by hunger. When Jack returned, she was already gone. Little did they know, at that very moment, two mysterious figures had quietly entered the villa, intending to eliminate them completely. They were well aware of the consequences of nuclear contamination. To prevent the truth from leaking out, they planned to wipe out every survivor in the town. Soon, Dan discovered bombs that had been planted in advance. Fortunately, Dan had studied bomb disposal before, but just then, his vision began to blur. He had drunk contaminated water while saving his daughter. This meant he too would soon mutate into a zombie. Finally, while he still had a sliver of consciousness, shakily disarmed the bomb. Exhausted, he collapsed unconscious. Meanwhile, Jack's sister entered the kitchen searching for food. Unaware she'd been spotted by two mysterious figures, what no one could have anticipated was their ruthless intent. They spared not even a newborn infant. They scattered a bottle of virus-laced candy across the floor, signaling for the baby to eat.